Hi everyone, I'm back with another video from the Season 5 PTR. This time I want to talk about the Barbarians. The Barbarians have received a pretty interesting new item called the Third Blade. It allows you to convert your weapon mastery skills into spammable core skills with a fury cost instead of a cooldown. And what you're seeing here is this in action. I'm spamming Death Blow non-stop with this setup, without the need to actually kill any target. It's quite interesting, and this is the setup that I came up with for this, which is an unbridled rage, overpower, crit setup basically, and it has a very interesting combination of items and effects that all work together to make this setup. So I really like kind of like the theory crafting part of it basically. Now it's not like the craziest build. You can see here I'm bonking for like 50 million, 80 million, 100 million occasionally, and on the boss I have seen like 150, 200 or something like that. And I do have to say though that my setup is very heavily unoptimized. So this is something that can be improved by multiple times. I did a little napkin math on this, and I estimated that something like probably times 4 or so from where I was in this video is probably quite doable. And this doesn't even include potential buffs to some of the uniques that this build is running that I expect to get buffs. And also, for example, if you compare this to, let's say, Bash or Flay or something, I do expect nerfs to those builds. So it might actually kind of close the gap a little bit once the final patch goes live in Season 5. And this is also not a Gushing Wounds build, which I also kind of expect to be on the chopping block here for nerfs coming in the final patch notes. But I guess we'll see. Technically, you could also play this as a bleed build with Gushing Wounds if you really wanted, which would, at least in the current version, maybe even be a better build. But I wanted to specifically make something not bleed, basically, because that's all we've seen the entire Season 4 already. And this is a very nice synergy that we have here with lots of overpower shenanigans. So I'm going to show you what it's all about. The cool part about this build is that compared to most other builds in the game, it actually has really good boss damage compared to the AoE clear. So what you saw here, it seems a little bit slow, and I do have to say that the AoE clear is just not really the same as, just like whirlwinding around and, having the terrorist might shoot out or something like that. But it does feel really good on the bosses thanks to the enhanced Death Blow. So if you want to bonk bosses, this is really a build for you. And this is an unbridled rage build. This is an overpower build and not a bleed build. But as I mentioned, you could convert this into a Gushing Wounds setup, which might actually be better, but I kind of expect a nerf, so we'll see, because Gushing Wounds is kind of like very overtuned these days. And instead, we use this keystone here. And as you saw, I was actually able to constantly spam Death Blow without ever doing anything else. And the way that I did this is with the Starlight aspect. Starlight has been buffed to now work with overhealing, so you don't need to lose life and then heal life. Instead, you can get this resource from just spamming heals, basically. And well, there is a really good synergy here that opens up, which is Invigorating Fury. So you spend a lot of Fury, you heal a lot, and then this healing converts into resources and you get it all back. And on top of this, Death Blow can also refuel your Fury. And this is kind of like the core of the whole this whole setup, basically. How you refuel your resources all the time. Now, I do have to say though that early on this might be a little bit hard to achieve. So I was actually playing with a Whirlwind Death Blow build. This looked like this. This is basically very similar to the old Whirlwind Hoda build from Path of Exile that we used there, where we constantly weapon swap with Whirlwind and then the Hoda, or in this case Death Blow, Whirlwind, Death Blow, Whirlwind, Death Blow. For example, using the weapon swap passive here, Furious Impulse, and then the Weapon Master node. This was also buffed in Season 5. It now grants you 8% of your maximum fury every time you swap. So you get 2 swaps for every single Death Blow, giving you 60% of your maximum fury. And this is also increased by your resource generation effects. For example, Ring of Red Fury use a lot of extra resource generation. You have a bunch here from the willpower, and you can maybe put one on your ring or something like that. And you have a bunch here. And you come out with something like roughly double or so in terms of resources generated. So this 16 that you get from 2 swaps is actually more like 32. And then you also have the Starlight aspect kicking in, healing you, and then giving you this extra primary resources. So this 40 becomes something like 80. So you get a lot of resources, basically. And this allows you to just kind of like spam basically a lot of very costly skills with the Umbrella Rage, but also benefit from this extra damage bonus and giving you a lot of other synergies. In this case, we have the Red Fury. Every 100 Fury we spend, we get a guaranteed crit with extra damage And we can achieve this for every single hit. As you saw in the clip, every single one was a crit. And then every 3 hits, we get a overpower as well, thanks to the Banished Lord's Talisman. Because after spending 275, boom, overpower, and you go again. So this is really nice, and it opens up some other synergies here as well. Again, same combo as before. We have a lot of fury spent, a lot of fury gained every attack. And for example, we get Encroaching Wrath on every single swing. 100 fury, boom. Because the base fury cost of Death Blow actually becomes 60, I believe, with the third blade. And then we have double the cost, so meaning 120 with the Unbridled Rage. So this is kind of where it's at. And then you can also combine this, for example, with Crown of Lucian to give you even more resource cost. So this is one of the new unique items as well that I've tried with the setup. And first you start with less resource cost. It goes to minus 75, and then it adds plus 125 from there. So it actually costs even more. And then you get to the point where you spend way more than 100 fury per attack. But again, you can still get it all back thanks to this combo of Starlight, Invigorating Fury, and all this extra resource generation that you have from your items. Now, before you have really good gear with this setup, you have to do this Whirlwind Deathblow stuff. So there are some other synergies that open up, which is what I explained here with the Weapon Masters. But later, when you just spam Deathblow, you don't actually have to do this anymore. You just add like an extra glyph here, for example, instead of the Weapon Master node. So we swap this board around, we swap the Paragons a little bit, and we don't need to do the weapon swapping anymore. So we entirely refuel by just spamming Deathblow, and it's going to be fine. There's also, like, for example, a Fury per second node here that we can put, for example, on the chest or on the boots. So I did this a little bit for safety, and this did help me out a little bit to make this more consistent. And then also a little bit of extra maximum resources helped me, because occasionally I would run into a situation where I didn't have enough of a resource pool to really make the combo work flawlessly, because sometimes I would kind of cap out when a Starlight aspect procced, and then I would, you know, spend a lot and I would not get enough back from one single hit. But with a higher maximum pool, it actually allowed me to do this consistently. So maximum fury was also kind of helpful to make the setup work. And since we were on the Warbringer board, we also get some rest here. We get the Warbringer for the Fortify. This is overall a pretty nice combo to have here. And then we ended up with something like around 200 maximum fury, and it was much smoother. Another reason to use this Whirlwind setup early on is also because if you don't have the Crown of Lucian, you actually do not necessarily spend enough resources to get all of your procs on every single attack, or rather you would get them like every second attack, like your Ring of Red Fury, your Encroaching Wrath, your Invigorating Fury. Like enough, it wouldn't really like work that well to get them. So we do this weapon swapping stuff with Whirlwind Deathblow. You have to kind of like hold down Shift, for example. That's what I did. Shift plus left click for the Whirlwind, and then right clicking for the Deathblow whenever you want to, basically. And with this weapon swap combo, we would refuel this very easily until later on we would do the full spam thanks to the Lucian's Crown. So that's kind of how the main setup works for the build, and the rest is just kind of like extra damage reduction. So I put you know, a bunch of aspects around here that help you in general just like stay alive. You have the Steel Grass to kind of pull enemies together because it's a relatively small AoE where you do full damage. We have the Overkill Mace here that creates a shockwave, but the shockwave only does up to 38% damage, and it kind of like extends a little bit further. It helps a little bit with the AoE clear of like small monsters and stuff. But again, this is also one of the items that is definitely on the menu for a buff, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised for this to get a pretty heavy buff when Season 5 rolls around, and Banished Lord's Talisman might also see a buff. I guess optionally, instead of Banished Lord's Talisman and put even the Ring of Red Fury, you could do something like a Locrance Talisman. So this is one of the new amulets. This is extremely powerful, especially because Barbs have very easy time stacking a lot of extra maximum resources. Potentially you can even go for like a Ramalandis, and it also has maximum resources, and you can just stack a lot of it and then benefit from this extra crit chance here, basically giving you 100% crit chance and the extra crit damage, which is a multiplier. So when you have a lot of maximum resources like 250 or 300 fury or something like that, you're going to do a lot of damage. That could possibly outclass Banished Lord's Talisman and this whole overpower combo. So there could be some tweaks around this setup, but I kind of expect this thing to get nerfed, and I kind of expect this thing to get buffed. So yeah, I kind of went with this now, so we'll see. Otherwise, of course, you know, once the final patch notes roll out, I will be going back to this setup, and I will be revisiting this and tweaking it for the optimal scenario. But that's kind of how it worked there, and I had a lot of fun playing this, so I wanted to share this. I have the planner also here on my Discord, for example. I'll link it here in the description for the YouTube video, but all of my Season 5 stuff is already here. I have been working on a lot of stuff here on the PTR. So if you're looking to grab one of those planners, check something out, here you go. Of course, I'll be covering a lot more stuff here as well, including on the barb. So stay tuned for that. I've, for example, tried some flay rupture stuff here to see what you can do with the third blade. For example, in the rupture setup. That was kind of interesting as well. So I will be sharing that. And, well, a lot more stuff here. So just wanted to get it out. Hope you enjoyed this little preview here of my Deathblow barb. So definitely cool things to look forward to here for the barbs. And let's see what else we can cook up when the season actually goes live. Hope you enjoyed this, and see you guys next time.